shut down, or would you identify, don't try harder, try different, a different way around it? So I'm thinking about this 21-year-old I was talking to tonight, and him and I literally came up with a plan, and he loved the idea of just looking at it as, I don't need to try harder, I need to try different. Because this is not working, it doesn't mean I'm a failure. It means I need to try something different, and maybe I'll get a different result. And I find as parents, a lot of times we try the same thing over and over and over, and it doesn't work. And then we say it's a failure, versus taking a step back. If what we're doing isn't working, or if it's not bringing us the end result, don't try harder, try different. If you feel that you're not as close to your child as you would like, or you feel like they're really struggling, take a step back and try to take the emotion out of it for a second, if you can, and look at what's working and what's not. How do we kind of approach things differently? Maybe the child's not opening up to you. Maybe you're concerned the child's really struggling with connection. I think we have to just take a step back and look at what's going on, and look at how we can support our child. And again, that's what's worked for me, is slowing things down and really just taking a look on the back, assessing where my child's at, assessing where I'm at. Again, how am I managing my emotions? How am I doing? Am I struggling? Am I struggling with my relationship with the other parent? Am I struggling in general? And if I'm struggling as a parent, it's going to be difficult to really parent out of that purpose. And so it's key to take a look at that when we're really trying to intervene with the child. And I'm not the kind of therapist, when parents bring their child into me, typically it's not I'm going to drop them off and you're going to kind of make them better. I'm a whole family approach. If there's a lot of stuff going on, let's look at what's going on in the family as well, because our teenagers are not, they're pretty smart, and a lot of times they may be reacting to something going on in the larger system. And so we have to have an open conversation about that. And you know what? Every family struggles. Every child is going to struggle at a different point. There's no judgment in that for me, because I've been there, and I don't have any thought that all families are doing well all the time. If you're true to yourself, we all struggle, and we've all been there. And I think really taking an honest look at that is going to be huge. Thinking outside of the box, and helping our teenagers to set realistic expectations. Things are going to be difficult. You're not going to do well all the time, and that's okay. If you feel like you want something different, we want to support you with that. And what is it that you really want for yourself? And you will hear, I think the school does this a lot too, with just working on that growth mindset approach. Identifying areas that you feel like you've really grown, and what are areas where you feel like you can tend to get stuck in that fixed mindset. That fixed mindset is, I'm not going to be successful. I'm just not good at math. I had a student, and they were actually taking like an AP class. It was like they were a sophomore and they were in an AP math class. And they actually said to me, I'm not good at math. What do you mean? You're a sophomore, you're in an AP math class. I got a C, this is too hard, I'm not good. So the teenager was actually interpreting, this is difficult for me, thus I'm not good at math. If it doesn't come easy, I just must not be good at it. And that led to a really great conversation, because again, it was the teen's perspective. And so I can't stress enough, really ask your kids and your teens about their perspective. Ask them what they think you really value in your parenting. Ask them what you think your expectations are. And some of them might say, I think you just care about grades, or I don't know, I don't think you care about this or that. I had a teenager say to me, she's very into dance and art, but her parents really focus on grades. When she is screwing up in her grades, parents are the first in line to say something. And she said to me, it's interesting, I bring home a painting and nobody makes a big deal of it, and this is what's really important to me. And that really stood out to me. Improvements are possible. We can get better at anything we try. If you put in some work, you can improve, and improvement and opportunities are possible. You have to believe success is obtainable. And really, what does success look like? Again, many of the kids I work with, they think they're either successful or they're a failure. I spend a lot of time having these conversations about success looks different for everyone, and it might look different every day. Success for me today might be that I was able to get out of bed. Success for me today might be that I made it through the day without engaging in a behavior. Success for me may be that I was able to ask my teacher for help. Be observant and mindful of what success really is for your child that day, and really try to respond by saying something positive about a success they've had. Not just about their grades or not just about something big, but hey, I noticed, you got up even though it's Friday, it's been a long week. I saw you working extra hard yesterday. I'm impressed by that. I think the comments we make to our kids really says a lot about our intentions. Again, not just COVID, but this is a really challenging time. There's a lot going on, and I work with a lot of different communities in Illinois, and so I spend a lot of time with community leaders and school people, and just talking about what's going on in the community and how we can support our teenagers. Having conversations with your teens about COVID, again, about politics, about different things that have gone on. Losses in the community, have conversations, but really allow your kids to talk. Let them express themselves in terms of what they think. Don't, you might have a strong reaction to something. You may have a really emotional response. Try not to assume what your child is feeling or experiencing. I see a lot of parents in my office, and they tell me what their children feel while their children are sitting right there. And I encourage you just to think about that they may have a totally different response than you do. As parents, we worry. And so a lot of times we, again, project our feelings and emotions onto them. Especially during difficult times, it's important to really just listen, let them talk. If you have a child, again, that doesn't talk, or it's difficult to have conversations, even send messages, send texts. There's a lot of different ways you can converse with your teenager or child. Teaching social responsibility during this time. And by this, I mean a lot of parents have come to me during this time and just talked about just different ways that they've chosen to really model and work with their teens on giving back to the community. And this can happen in so many different ways. Somebody was telling me just recently that they really identified different senior citizens in their community that were going to be alone for Thanksgiving, and they made different boxes and baskets, and they're going to drop them off at the houses. Really kind of working with your teenager on how we are a part of the community, how we support our educators and our schools around us, how we partner. This is a time where many are judgmental and just kind of angry right now I'm not going to say for not right reasons, but recognizing how we can use this as a learning opportunity with our teens, and really partner with those around us, and really work on that idea of we do have a community, and how can we help others, as well as how can we access help for ourselves. So when I need help, how do I get it? And also, how do I give back, whether it's supporting the school or supporting the community. This one is challenging too, just modeling emotion regulation. And I know for me, again, I think I referenced, my adult kids. I really see, in many ways, I see how they manage their emotions a lot of those ways they learned from me, good and bad. And so think about that. If you're concerned about a way that your child is managing emotions, really kind of reflect on, how do I manage my emotions? And if that's something I want to change, great. It's something that I can work on. I really try just to kind of assess where I'm at each day. And I know if I'm feeling really tired or emotional, I try to just take a step back and know that I've got to be mindful, because I don't want to yell and I don't want to power struggle. The minute I start to react, especially to my children, I know it's not going anywhere. So if I'm not coming from that calm place, it's nothing is going to work. And if my child is really emotional, talking to them is not going to be helpful. I need to give them a minute or two, allow them to bring their emotions down. If you are a talker, just be mindful. Your teenager is probably not listening after 3 or 4 words. As parents, I think we like to go on and on and on, but really that's only for our own benefit. They don't retain information that way. They need it to be more interactive. And If you have a teenager that has anxiety or really struggles with their emotions, you want to avoid providing reassurance. Telling a teenager they're going to be fine is not going to make them feel fine. Actually, reassurance heightens anxiety. Likewise, you want to be mindful. Over complimenting a teenager isn't going to make them have more confidence. What makes teens more confident is when they start to see they can handle difficult situations and rise to the occasion and work through it. That's how they begin to feel confident, not by being told that they're amazing or that they're a rock star. In fact, sometimes when they're told that, it actually creates more stress because it's an expectation that they have to live to. This question's come a lot this week, and I've talked a lot to parents this week about this. And again, I'm going to review this briefly. This is probably one of the slides that many parents, as well as myself, have had the hardest time implementing. Our teens during this time need some type of consistency, routine, and structure. You know, we are in the middle of a pandemic. So this isn't about whether they should be in school or not be in school. This is just about how do we develop routine, and we can develop that routine within our homes. If you're working and you're taking on multiple roles, you know, you have to make it work for you. Every family is different and unique, and you've got to find a plan that comes and works for you. So this is not about being critical of yourself or about judgment. This is just about some ideas, creating some routine. For instance, some parents will say, you know, these are the expectations in our home. We have 3 or 4. If you're meeting your expectations, then you can have your privileges. So if you're logging on to your school, if you're doing your assignments, then you can earn your electronics, or you can earn your time with this or that, whatever that is. Every teenager, every person is motivated by something. It's trying to figure out what's motivating them. If as a parent, you're feeling like, I can't set this structure, I can't set these limits because my child will become really, really upset or agitated, that's probably a good sign to reach out and get some assistance from the school or from a counselor. Because if you're in a place where you feel like if you set limits with your child, it's going to cause them to go become really upset, then you know, there's typically a bigger issue going on there. Routine can be doing one thing the same every day. Maybe we go on a walk every day at the same time. Maybe we have a meal every day at the same time. Maybe we set one expectation and we make it consistent. Whatever works for you. And I have an example on the next slide. Like I said earlier, I worked in a day program and in a hospital setting for many years. And when kids were really, really, really struggling, they typically go to a program. And they go to that program because the more teens are struggling, the more they need the structure and the routine. Many parents feel like structure and routine is more of a consequence for a child who's struggling. But in actuality, when our children are struggling with anxiety, depression, any of those things, they really, really need more consistency and structure. Self-care during this time, I can't stress this one enough. If we're not taking care of our own mental health, then we're not able to take care of others. And I can attest that this is really true. I think this is really so critical for us. And I've practiced it myself. I've been through really difficult situations. I've been through periods of just grief and loss, and that self-care piece was huge. Just really working on the responsibility that we have for ourselves and taking care of ourselves, as well as having some compassion on ourselves. How do we show compassion to ourselves as well as those around us? Again, our kids are very aware of our attitudes and our intentions. Be mindful and maybe ask them, you know, how they think we're doing in each of these areas. And using creativity during this time. If you're having a hard time connecting to your teen, again, thinking outside of the box, trying to come up with some fun challenges and fun ways to interact with them. As much as our teens won't tell us, they want to interact with us. They tell me all the time. They're just not going to tell you. If you're trying to change something in your home, it might take 2 or 3 weeks to really see a change. My best advice is to be consistent and recognize that sometimes things are going to get worse before it gets better. Oftentimes parents will come to me and they'll have a plan and, Jackie, we're going to do things a little bit differently. We really want there to be more routine in the home. We told our child if they're not engaging in school or going to school today, they're not going to have their electronics. We're really feeling good about this plan. This is what we're going to do. Well, 3 days later, I'll talk to the family and the parent will say to me, it didn't work. Well, it's only been 3 days. Yeah, we tried it. We tried it 2 days and it didn't work. Well, how do you know it didn't work? Just we tried it and the child was really upset. The child didn't do what we wanted. It's not about putting something in place for 1 or 2 days. It's about really being consistent for 2 to 3 weeks with whatever the plan is. And it's hard. Sometimes I encourage parents to write it down. Sometimes I encourage parents to have a visual and really have someone hold them accountable, because it's hard to stay consistent with something. Same thing when I'm working with teenagers. I teach them, I can teach you a coping strategy, but it's not going to work right away. You have to practice it every day. You have to try to recognize that whenever you're upset, it's going to take 1 to 2 minutes, whether it's breathing or any coping strategy you're going to do. It's going to take 1 to 2 minutes to bring those levels down. And I'll even put a stopwatch on for 1 to 2 minutes. And I will have parents and kids sit in the room and see how long 1 to 2 minutes really can be. And I will have teenagers, I can't do that coping strategy for 2 minutes. That's too long. Well, that's realistically how long it takes to kind of calm your physical symptoms. Just some healthy skills. Again, recognize, and one of the other tools I do a lot of times with teenagers is I have them assess their physical symptoms to stress, sadness, or any other strong emotional response. I have them assess their body's physical responses. Sometimes we'll use a level scale, 0 to 5, 0 to 10. If I'm dealing with somebody that struggles with anxiety, I might say, okay, let's talk about what your body feels like at a 1, what happens at a 2, and we actually write out what happens from 0 to 5. And then we talk about when your body starts to tense up, what are some ways that you can kind of bring yourself down? What are some ways that you can calm yourself? And this is going to be important. Kids and teenagers need to know how to calm themselves. We as the adults can't always be the ones calming them and reassuring them. It's about us being okay with them being physically uncomfortable sometimes, still holding them accountable, because the key is when our kids start to struggle with anxiety or sadness, and I work also with a lot of kids with physical and medical issues, we don't want to change the expectations because they're struggling. We want to keep expectations in place, make sure that they're realistic, but hold kids accountable, because what happens is that's how they stay in par when there's that structure in place. Being mindful of unhealthy coping, shutting down, staying in the room long periods of time, excessive video game use, substance use. We want to be mindful of that unhealthy coping and intervene if we see it. And as parents, setting some boundaries around that, because I think, and I've had this conversation also, I really struggle setting limits with my child because I'm worried about how they're going to react. And this is where it becomes challenging. It's about really embracing them with that structure, making sure that they know healthy coping strategies. I know at school they learn a lot, but just, asking, saying things like, hey, I had a really stressful situation today at work. How do you think I could have coped with this? Or how do you think I did cope with it? How would you cope with it? What are coping strategies that you use? And again, if you have a hard time, with your teenager, and many teenagers I know, they struggle opening up, allow there to be some time. Maybe you start with more kind of just conversations about things they like, and then you slowly start to bring in these other topics. Making room for laughter. Many of us are dealing with our own worries and our own stressors right now, our own sorrows. Making room to recognize what's got us in the place we're in, avoiding that self-criticism and being mindful that we're doing the best. I believe we are all doing the best we can every day. And whatever that looks like today, that is enough. Many of us are exhausted. You may even feel like you're just on this endless journey. Be mindful of that self-criticism, because I really, and we work with kids on this all the time. Nobody with worry ever said, I'm so worried everything's going to go really great for me today, or I'm so worried everybody's going to like me. I'm so worried, and it's always worst case situation. We can be our own worst critic. We love to beat ourselves up. We love to blame ourselves. Take a break from that. It's not gonna be effective. When you have those thoughts, recognize a lot of times thoughts are just a symptom of stress and worry. Try to do a reality check. Even if someone else tells me I'm not okay or I'm not doing a good job, what do I think about how I'm doing? Back to, what are my expectations? Kind of, how do I feel I did? Can I be okay even if somebody else isn't okay with me? And I had this conversation tonight, and I've only got a couple more things to say, but a girl was telling me, her mom was giving her a guilt trip. And we talked about how, really nobody can make you feel guilty. And I worked with her, and she's actually 21. I worked with her on recognizing kind of what was going on and setting a boundary with her parent, and really recognizing that she didn't need to feel guilty just because somebody was giving her a guilt trip. We can start to take control of how we're feeling in our own emotional health. This is a challenging time. We're doing our best. If you spend time with people, certain people, and you recognize you feel worse after spending time with them, try to minimize the time you spend with them. Find people in your life right now that are going to really uplift you and make you feel better. There's a ton of negativity out there right now. Try not to be in the midst of it, especially if you realize it rubs off on you and it causes you to maybe do and say things that you don't want your child to model after you. I know I've talked about this, and I would talk about this all night if I could. Be supportive of yourself. Think about, kind of, if you kind of walked through your day today, you think about all the reactions you had. Were those reactions that were really reactions that you were proud of, or did you find that there were many times throughout the day that maybe you overreacted or made an assumption? I think, a lot of times we make assumptions, and I think we have to be mindful that what are we really assuming? Do we have evidence? Do we know that it's true about what we're reacting to? Modeling self-soothing. One of the things when I work with teachers, we do a lot of just modeling self-soothing in the classroom. Modeling that times are going to be challenging, and what are ways that we can self-soothe in front of others, and what are ways that we can really teach that, we are going to experience all kinds of emotions, and sometimes just sitting with it and recognizing sometimes we all need a break. We need a second just to regroup, and that's okay. But we have to figure out how to do that on our own. And that's where that self-care is so huge right now. Strategies for parents, again, I think it all starts with that self-awareness piece. Being aware of what are things that trigger emotional response for you as a parent. What are things that really trigger you to respond? Think for a moment, what are a few goals that you have for your child? What do you want to teach your child through your parenting? When you think about where you want your child to be in 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, are your reactions helping that child to get there? We know that times are really difficult. How do we really be supportive? Listen to the child without judgment. Still help create that routine in the home and help them to be accountable. And that really does provide them that sense of safety. Things are going to happen, and we can't emphasize enough. If you feel that you need more support, if you feel like you're really struggling with something going on, instead of reacting, seek help. When I started the school refusal program at Amita, the 3 things that I know that I needed to teach our teenagers was how to ask for help. And this is huge. If you're struggling, I want you to practice asking for help. In fact, I tell my teenagers that I work with, I want you to practice asking me for help every week. I want you to reach out to me, even if it's something silly. I want to know that you can ask me for help, that you can really reach out. Do you know how to solve problems? Do you know how, if you're struggling with a situation, do you know how to kind of look at that situation from a couple different angles and problem solve, or do you tend to just get stuck and shut down? Can you recognize and really manage your emotions? And these are key skills that I'm consistently working on. How do we communicate with one another? If we're struggling or frustrated with someone else, how do we communicate that? Do we tend to be assertive? Do we tend to be aggressive, passive? What is our communication style? And does that kind of resemble the communication style of our child? There are many resources available. Seek out, if you're concerned about your child, partner with the student service team at your school. There's tons of resources at your school. I know that's one of the reasons why they wanted me to come here tonight. Seek your pediatrician or your physician. You can always call and say, hey, this is kind of what I'm seeing. What do you think? There's many counseling agencies. Most of them are offering some form of telehealth as well, so you can get on and have a telehealth session without even leaving your house and kind of see, is this a good fit? If one agency isn't the right fit, there's many others. If you want to go through insurance or some form of then you need to call your insurance and get a list of providers, or you can ask your school. If your child's ever in crisis, you're concerned that there's a safety issue, don't hesitate. Reach out, call crisis, or call your local hospital program. I know they have multiple hospitals in the area. And again, your student service team can help you more with that. There's also Amita Health. I know there's Northwest Community and some other hospitals in the area. This is the McHenry Mental Health Board. I think some live in McHenry, but you also, and it's not in here, have the Lake County agencies, but there is a lot of support. And again, I know that, me or anyone at the school would be more than happy to help. I am going to come out of this slideshow now because unfortunately I was not able to see anyone tonight, and I'm going to bring you all back. Again, this is just some information I wanted to share with you. And if you would like any more information, or you want to, ask more questions, you can reach out to someone at the school, as well as connect with me. I will share the slides also if that would be helpful for you all. So thank you. Hopefully that was helpful.
Thank you, Jackie. I put a note in the chat that if anybody had any questions. As of right now, we don't have any questions, but we can hang on for a minute or two here to see if somebody does have any questions they would like to ask you.
I definitely feel for teachers. That's what I got to say. Nothing is more sad to presenting to a blank screen for 60 minutes and having no idea if people are throwing things at the screen, spitting at the screen, smiling at the screen. Oh, I feel for you.
The chat feature seems to be disabled, so you can't type in it.
Sorry about that. I can fix that. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you. That has been fixed now. Thank you.
I am going to put my email in here. And if anybody wants to follow up with me and they don't want to put something on the chat, I'm going to put that in there. I think that went in there. Maybe not. Oh, yeah, I did. So that is my email. If anybody needs anything, I'm going to share these slides. If you want to write my email down and there's a question or something you have for me and you don't want to put it in the main chat, you can feel free to do that.
And Jackie, if you just want to share the slides with me, we will be posting. I didn't start the recording right away, but what I did get recorded, we will be posting that on our website, and we can post your slides along with that.
Awesome. And somebody is asking about the Spanish. I am working on that. And I can try to get that recorded. I am going to be in a couple, I think might not be till the first week in January, I'm going to be hosting 3 presentations that are going to be in Spanish. And so I can get that. We can see, we're doing it. We're having 2 different therapists. Sometimes it's hard to get them interpreted, but I'm having a colleague I work with. He is going to be presenting the whole time, everything I'm doing in Spanish. So I can try to, when I get those to you, if that would be helpful. I think, there's a question about the toxic positivity. I think, I don't know in detail about that, but I think, one of the things that we want to try to do is just really, like I talked about tonight, is just helping our teens. I think sometimes we just need to, just be realistic with them. I think, it's funny, we look at how parenting styles have shifted over the years. And I think sometimes we feel like we need to be the biggest cheerleaders in the world to our kids. And I don't know that really that always is in turn as effective as it is really, being realistic with them of like, hey, I really noticed you did that well, if it's something they did well, versus I know you're amazing and will always be amazing. I think we just have to be mindful and be realistic. We don't want to be totally down, like this is the worst thing ever. Nothing's going to get better. Why do you always do this? Because I hear that a lot too. God, we're back to square one. Nothing ever changes. And that's not helpful either. But recognizing every day is a day where a lot happens, good and bad, and really being able to recognize that you can have something really difficult happen and it doesn't mean it was a bad day. There has, and I'll let, I've actually spoken to the students multiple times. I know Mr. Roy and I spoke last year, and I know, I'm not sure, Mr. Roy, I would always love to do that with you again, but I know we have done that in the past as well.
Jackie, there was one question that kind of slipped by there. It said, my son says to mom, I'm not motivated anymore.
Again, and it's a long conversation, but it is, I think, having that structure, coming up with that structure and routine can be huge for our kids. And sometimes just looking at having that balance and helping provide is going to help with the motivation piece. But I love how, another parent had even said, just really about listening to, that's like an opening. If they're saying that, that's a great thing that they're acknowledging it and even coming to you with that. So really even stopping in and listening to why do you think that you're not motivated, and what do we need to do? It's interesting to get their perspective. But on a parent end too, just helping kind of facilitate some of that structure and routine at home. There's not an easy way to answer that, unfortunately. And I know we're going to have a second session of this, and it is geared towards middle school and elementary, but I'm going to be talking a lot about the structure in there. And a lot of the structure that we're going to talk about in that one can really apply to high school kids as well. So I know that we're going to be doing a couple of these. So we are going to go more in detail at that one. So hopefully I'll send that to you tonight, the PowerPoint.
Jackie, thank you so much for presenting today. I don't see any more questions right now, so we will let you go as well. Once again, we will be posting this on the website. I apologize for missing the first couple 15 minutes or so of the presentation, but we will have that on there. Also, Mr. Roy took some notes for us today, so we'll have that. And yes, Jackie will be doing a second presentation a little bit later for younger grades. So we really appreciate it, and really appreciated what you had to say. So thank you, everyone, and have a great night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you. I'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Yes, sir.
Is she gonna log out? Maybe just log out. I'm logging out. Tell Jackie we can start.